Hello and welcome back to the Spots of Wisdom podcast. I'm Shannon. I run Spot That Dog.
And I'm Jade, and I run that dog base in Wrexham.
So today we are going to talk about kids and dogs and the do's and don'ts when it comes to crossing the pair over. Did Jade got anything to say?
Have I got anything to say? Yeah, so kids and dogs. So I know a lot of trainers that I don't know whether you're the same. I have a lot of trainer friends that won't work with dogs and kids if they've never had children before. I don't know if you've heard of this one. So what they do is they feel that because they haven't been in that situation themselves, they haven't got kids themselves, that they don't feel qualified, I guess is the right
Yeah,
word, to then comment on that situation because they've not been in it before.
I think it's hard, isn't it? Because yeah, I get that. And actually, all the trainers I know don't have kids.
Yep.
The ones that are CAD trainers don't have kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Um, which I get. I think for me, the
yeah.
reason that sometimes I'd find it harder to work with people with family is that stepping over, not stepping out of line, but people
Yep.
do get really offended when you talk about their kids.
Yep.
So how can I be there to do my job for that dog's welfare when I've
Yep.
got a tiptoe around how essentially not how they raise their kids, but obviously if their kid's being an idiot and it's affecting the dog, I need to tell them that their kid's being an idiot and they can't
I
do that.
I think you are right. I think you are. In some circumstances, you are telling someone how to raise their children. I've had to do it before,
Yeah,
and you feel awkward as anything in some situations, but you get people, and it's not usually big dogs, it's usually little fluffy
yeah,
ones that are like asleep on the sofa, and the kids just want to pick up the dog. They've
yeah,
got this new dog, and they're like, I want to pick it up, and I want to carry it, and I want to do this. And I get a phone call and it'll be like my dog's about to bite my
yeah,
child. And I go, well, what's happening in that situation? And they go, oh, well, they're fast asleep and my kids just want to hug the dog. They just love it so
yeah.
much. And you go, well, that can't happen.
No, I've had it on one of my very first one-to-ones a couple of years ago. I went in, they literally had the dog a week, I think. It was an overseas rescue, and she was talking about how he's reactive, he bites, he this, that, and the other, and literally in that one-to-one, the child was in the bed with the dog. And I will, although there's that tiptoeing around, I will say what I need to say. And now I'm there like, right, you need to like come out of the bed, leave the dog alone, like that space needs to be the dog. And then as kids do, just kept going back in, and I'm like, this is why you get bitten. Like
Yeah.
the parents need to understand that. And I think you do get, they're not all the same. You do get parents that do understand it and they do understand that keeping the distance between the two is the best way to do things.
Hmm.
But you've also then got the other extreme of the ones that the dog's a doll, not a
Yes.
sentient being.
And and the almost like the whole feeling of a dog being a dog's kind of changed.
Yeah,
So like from say like my nan and granddad's era, for example, like it was the dog's eating, you don't go near it.
yeah,
The dog's doing something
yeah.
blown.
And
If the
back
dog's not
then, if
you,
you got
that's
bit by the
your fault.
dog, it was your fault.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
So I've been to houses before with my granddad. He's a farmer for anyone that doesn't know. And they'd have working line border collies and he'd go, you do not touch that
yeah,
dog. You do not go near that dog. It will bite
yeah,
you. And so you didn't go near the dog.
yeah. And if
Now
you did, you
it's
get
like,
bitten.
yeah, and now it's like the dog should be able to tolerate you picking it up when
Yeah,
it's asleep. It should tolerate you putting your hand in its food bowl. It should be able to put up with anything that you're
yeah.
going to do with it. Otherwise, it's aggressive, and we've kind of
And the
shifted mindset.
funny thing in that, isn't it, is that like, so with dogs it's gone that way, but with people, someone dare lay a finger on you, like I could poke you and you could label that as assault.
100%.
And the difference is dogs aren't a certain way inclined. They're not malicious. They can't, um, calculate things like
Yeah,
people
yeah.
can. So
Hmm.
what they're doing is literally survival skills. So someone's touched them, they didn't like it, they've probably growled, they've probably given them a warning, it didn't work, so they've had to bite.
Yeah,
Whereas humans are completely different in that I can sit there and I can keep poking you just to piss you off.
yeah. Hmm.
But, oh, it's banter.
Yeah,
So if you slap me for doing it, you're
yeah,
in the wrong because it's banter.
yeah,
Not, I shouldn't have been doing it to you. Not that you've got feelings and I've got to be aware of that. So with
yeah,
dogs, it is completely different. People think they can just lift the dog up, spin her around, chuck them upside down. Like
yeah,
they're still beings with, when I say feelings, I don't mean emotions the same way as we do, but
yeah,
they have fear.
yeah.
They do get nervous. We've
Mhm.
got anxiety, like, and equally they'll feel pain and discomfort. If you pick them up and you're swinging around, it's probably going to hurt.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we've gone so far the other way. They're animals at the end of the day, and we should be able to reason with our children in a way
Yeah.
that stops them from pestering and, all that kind of stuff. I get it from a sense that if you've not had kids, I get it. Maybe your idea of management is not realistic.
Yeah.
Maybe. I get it from that point of view. You've not lived with a child, so I do kind of get it. But then saying that on the flip side, I know someone who's got two dogs. They're both intact. She's got a male and a female. She's got three kids. And again, she manages that situation when she's got an in-season dog. She's had no accidents. The kids close the stair gates. She's got two types of management in place between
Yeah.
dogs and children. Like, it's doable. I'm not saying it's easy. It's
Yeah.
doable. But I think that's where most trainers maybe feel less confident because they've never been in that situation themselves.
Yeah, and I think it is just overstepping that boundary and depending on what kind of client you've got, whether you're going to get a backlash from it or whether they're going to appreciate what you've got to say, because you're going to get those clients where you'll tell them they'll ignore it and then you'll get the blame
Yeah,
because their kid's then been bitten.
yeah,
So it's it's the same with anything. You're going to get some clients that are always going to be a catch-22, and that doesn't matter what you say or what you do, you're always in the wrong.
100%. So I kind of market myself a little bit as being child friendly.
Yeah,
So I have children in classes. I'm all for bring
yeah,
your children to classes, that's fine. As long as I've had a few, don't get me wrong, where I've had a few where the kids have come in and they're running around the hall, or they've
yeah,
thrown equipment on the floor, or that
yeah,
they're just being horrible, and the parents think it's funny. Oh, look at
yeah.
him running around, and I'm like, no, that can't happen.
Yeah, and mine straight out. So on my like form it says you need to let me know if you're going to bring anyone else.
Yeah,
One because of I think like fire drills at school, we need to know who's in the building.
yeah,
And equally, whenever they say, "Oh, is it all right if I bring my kid?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine," but they're not allowed to disrupt anyone else. Like
mhm,
if they want to piss around with your dog and your dog doesn't learn, then fine, but
yeah.
don't interfere with someone else's training when they've paid £100 for their dog to be trained as well.
100%. Yeah, completely. I'll get kids involved in training where possible. So if I know I've
Yeah,
got kids coming, I will do a hand touch, a middle,
yeah,
something that the kids can get
some
involved in. And
tricks and
I'm
stuff.
like, yeah, get your kid doing it, that's fine. Um, I'll answer all their questions. I've got a couple of kids that come and stand at the front and sit next to me because they want to pretend they're teaching the class.
Yeah,
Fine. As long as your kid's behaving, genuinely don't care. Sometimes, again, it's really good for kids because they're meeting other dogs
yeah.
in right circumstances,
And
obviously.
ones that they can't mess around with.
Yeah, so they're learning the body language, and the kids get to interact with different types of dogs, and the dogs get to interact with the kids, and that's quite good for them puppy wise. So I'm all for bringing kids, but again, they've just got to be well managed and
Yeah.
under control.
And it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, I think, again, you always get different types of parents and different types of parenting. And, like, if we want to evolve the conversation, things like when you see young children walking dogs out on the street,
Terrifies me.
for me, it's not that that kid can't be responsible. It's what happens, say your dog's perfect, that's fine. What happens if a not perfect dog comes and starts a fight with your dog.
Yeah.
Can your 10-year-old deal with that? Probably not, because it's hard enough for me to deal with a fight with my two. Not my two, but like if someone gets in a fight with my two, I've got two possibly 30-kilo dogs that I've got to try and split up.
Yeah.
I'm 5'5",
Mhm.
so I'm not short, I'm not tall. How is a 10-year-old child going to deal with that situation? Then what happens? The
And
dogs, if the other person stops the fight, but their dog's now injured, they can't walk, is bleeding, what happens?
yeah. And
Because,
I think people get offended by that because I'm like, I wouldn't let, I think the conversation I had the other day involved a teenager, and I was like, I wouldn't let a teenager walk my dog.
no,
Now, that's not because my dog's horrible.
no,
Sherlock's brilliant. He interacts with children all of the time.
yeah,
He's a star. But I can't be responsible for the hundreds of other people that are
yeah,
out on the street
yeah,
who have no common sense. So if a dog runs over to him and jumps on him,
yeah,
as we've just said before
yeah,
this, my dog would hide.
yeah,
He doesn't want to fight back. He's hiding. Could my sister, for example, who's 15, separate the dogs? No, she
yeah,
couldn't. What if a squirrel or a cat runs across the
yeah,
road? Like what if
yeah,
somebody approaches and tries to take him away? What if, you've got all these things. If she causes a traffic accident,
yeah,
that's something that people don't take into
yeah.
consideration.
And the thing is, at the end of the day, like, yeah, okay, all those things could happen with you,
Oh,
but
100%.
is your responsibility. You're not putting that on anyone else.
Yeah,
I only have, so my other half walks my dogs less so Woody because of his reactivity. He's not a doggy person.
yeah,
Like, he doesn't need it, that doesn't bother him.
yeah,
But there's only one other person that I let walk my dogs, and while I fully trust her, I actually book a secure field for her if she has to take my dogs out. Because why would I put that stress and responsibility onto someone else?
yeah,
Like, what's the point on me being like, right, you're 5 foot tall, here's two 30-kilo dogs, one's reactive, one's an adolescent,
yeah,
go deal with it.
yeah.
That's not fair on other people. And yeah, okay, the kids might want to walk the dog, the kids might enjoy it and have fun, it gets them outside. But in this situation, while I don't go through life with the what ifs, not in the slightest,
Yeah.
in that scenario, if you're putting your dog, a child, and potentially the public at risk, it is something you need to think about.
No, I completely agree. I see it around the village. It's like children out walking dogs, and they're not, again, not that it changes it, but they're not even little dogs either.
No, it never is.
They're huge. Like there's one by me, and she has some massive, like the one you walk, the big, like bully
Yeah,
breed
the
thing.
Dr.
It's
Bordeaux.
that size.
Yeah.
And he's like pulling into the lead, and these kids are like holding on with two hands.
And
And
that's the thing. You've
what?
got to be responsible, haven't you? Like the other day, I done something to my back, so all of my like the muscles by my spine was like stiff, and I
Yeah,
had to text that owner and say, "Look, I can't walk him today because even though he's super friendly,
yeah,
if he wants to go and see another dog, he's gonna go and see another dog. I can't stop him because of my back."
yeah.
And that's just like being responsible. If
Mhm.
I could have still taken him for a walk, I could have saved myself some
Yeah,
money, I could have got on with it. But in the off chance that he wants to go and chase a cow or he wants to go and see a dog that's the other side of the field, when my back's injured, I can't stop that.
yeah,
The dog's 60 kilos.
yeah, yeah. No, completely. Yeah, it's something that terrifies me. And there are people that have done it in classes. And again, you're then left with that very awkward conversation where they've not asked if their child can hold a dog. They've just gone, you know what? There's
Yeah,
one in particular I'm thinking of, and she'd just sit on the chair and she'd hand the dog over to the child. And this child was still in primary school, so it can't have been
yeah,
any more than like 11. And it's just letting the dog go over to
yeah,
everybody. And she's like, oh, look, it's pulling me. And I'm like, no, that's not fair on
yeah.
everybody else. So then you have to have that really awkward, like, I'm not telling you how to parent your child, but I
But
am
not
kind of
on my
telling
class,
you how
yeah.
to parent your child. Um, you have to do, I don't know if you do the same thing. You have to do like some general sweeping statements, like, right, can everyone sit on the
Yeah,
chair now, please?
yeah.
Because otherwise it's just
And
awkward.
normally for me, if I've got kids or something like that, so when I'm doing certain exercises, I'm like, right, you've all got a corner each, use your space, don't overlap, like
Yeah.
make a point of it so that again, you're not necessarily like
Yeah.
digging at someone
I've
in
put
particular.
cone squares on the floor before now and gone, everyone stick
Yeah,
to the square. Nobody come out of the
yeah,
square. I have been known to give kids jobs, like if it's usually a boy, if you get a boy and he's like trying to run around
yeah,
and he just needs something to do and you can see he needs something to do, you're just like, do you want to go and pick all my cones up for me? And they go,
yeah.
then off they go. Again, I don't have to do that, but I just think it makes everybody's life a little bit easier. Um, but yeah, and then I suppose that brings us to dog walkers, dog sitters, dog, whatever they are, with kids,
Yeah.
taking their kids
And
to.
again, it's one of those we don't have, I don't have kids, you don't gonna have kids. So it is talking from a non-experience mind.
Yeah.
Like obviously one of the girls who works for me, she's got a kid.
Mhm.
Um, if it's a certain day of the week and she's got her kid or whatever, she doesn't walk dogs with her kid. There might be one or two, but that's like the most trustworthy dog that can go off lead. There's no issues there. And equally, it'd be like he's not he's not a baby, he's not older,
Yeah.
but he's quite a smart little kid, so he'll follow direction and is one of those. And it's also extremely rare. But my issue would be more when you get the group walkers.
Yeah.
They've got 5 or 6 dogs, but then they've also got 2 or 3 kids in tow. Because in that reality, if something happens, your kid's going to be your priority,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
the five,
Mhm.
six dogs that you've got. So, what happens then if your kid breaks his leg on a walk?
Mhm.
You've got to focus on your child. You've got 5 or 6 dogs running circles, plus potentially another kid. What
And
happens?
on the flip side, though, I completely agree with you. What if something happens to the dog?
Yeah,
Are you going to be able, even if your kids are really well behaved,
yeah,
okay, and something happens to the dog, can you get that dog, your group of dogs, and your
yeah.
kids all safely back to the car, the van, whatever it is?
Because a lot of the thing as well is the likelihood is that most of the walkers around by me don't have a van, they use their cars.
Okay.
So if you've got all your seats being used by the dogs,
Yeah.
where's your kids going? Is it safe?
Yeah, are you
Are you?
compromising
Yeah.
something to keep all of them? Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And it's one of those I get school holidays happen, you still have to make your money, but either when are becoming a mum or you are becoming a dog walker, you need to have backup plans in place for these sort of things.
I think
So,
it depends as well on honestly how well behaved your children are and honestly what kind of dogs you have. So if
yeah,
your kids are a little bit wild, you've got 5-year-old boys that just want to jump on
yeah.
everything, and you've got nervous dogs or reactive dogs or dogs that are a bit temperamental, that is obviously not going to end very well.
And we all know that sometimes you don't have a choice. Like, that's the problem, is that you might not have childcare, but you might also have owners that aren't home from work because they've got to drive to London every Wednesday and they don't have another option. So sometimes you are stuck,
Mhm.
but you should have already made a backup plan in place of that. So it might be that during the 6 weeks holidays, you have a spare staff member that comes and helps you. You've got a friend who is on a 0 hour contract somewhere else. So during the 6 week holidays, they come and help you for an extra bit of crash. Like it
I've
should, yeah,
Yeah, I've taken Grace on dog walks before now, for school holidays, for example. But again, you pick and choose.
yeah,
You go, you know what? I used to walk the best behaved spaniel ever. Oh, she was amazing. And you think, right, you can walk next to me one side, dog on the other. We'll do a half an hour,
yeah,
40 minutes, whatever, I'll drop you off. But there would always be dogs that I would go, she's not coming out with
yeah,
that because it just wouldn't end very
yeah.
well.
And it is all again circumstantial on what you're doing. Obviously, if you're a solo walker, it's a bit different. It might, and again, it depends on the age of the kid, depends on the dog. All the circumstances are different because, like you said, if your sister's 15, coming 16, then technically next year, this year, she's an adult.
Yeah,
So her coming with you isn't necessarily an issue. According to the law, she can start her own dog walking business from 12 years old.
I see it
Whether we
locally.
agree with that is a different question,
Yeah.
but legally she
Hmm.
could. So in that sense, with you and your sister, it's fine because she is not far off being classified as a
Mhm.
legal age. Um, whereas, I mean, I don't really have younger family. I'm one of the youngest, but like, I wouldn't go and take a 4 or 5 year old out on my walks
Mhm.
because we walk reactive dogs or we walk big dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it could be that that dog's really, really friendly. So I had it the other day, right? There we go. So I met up with my friends and I took Kevin and Sherlock, and she brought her little girl with her, who I think is 5 or 6, I think. She's very, very dog savvy for a 5 or 6 year old. She
Yeah,
lives with 3 dogs. She takes absolutely no messing. Like, it's
yeah,
hilarious. Like, if Sherlock goes up to her, she'll go, get down.
yeah,
She's great. She knows what she's doing. She's brilliant. But saying that, I thought, right, well, I'm taking Kevin to the field to meet this 5/6 year old.
yeah,
He weighs 36, 37 kilograms. He has no spatial awareness whatsoever.
yeah,
So I was like, oh my God, this could go so wrong. It's like I've got lead just in case, I've got long line just in case, I've got treats, the
yeah,
child's prepped, the dog's prepped. Do you know what? He was blooming brilliant. He didn't jump up, he sat nicely, he took treats nicely, he didn't jump up at her, he didn't try anything. He was beautiful. But he's not aggressive, he's not
no,
nervous. But if he'd have run in the wrong
yeah,
direction, child would have flown across
yeah,
the foot. So,
and
and
yeah.
that's when there were 3 adults there supervising with child and with dog. But even then I was like, oh, I wouldn't do this by myself.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that people don't really think of. And we've seen it on Facebook hundreds of times where I think we seen one the other day where someone was on about rehoming a dog because it was a big dog and it had knocked a couple of children over. And it's like, well, you're putting them in that position. So at the end of the day, it's your fault. It's not the dog's fault. You've put that dog in a home where there's young
Got to
kids
be
and you've also not
realistic.
prepared for it.
Yeah, you've got to be realistic. So, okay, I'm not saying it's right, but if you have a big dog, the likelihood is it's going to knock into you. It's going to knock into your children. You disappeared for a minute then.
Okay.
Um, like the likelihood is if you've got a big dog, how many times does your dog run into your furniture or your
Oh
sofa
my
or
God, on a
all
daily
the time?
basis.
Yeah, I think you've got to be a little bit realistic. And if you're having kids or you're planning on having kids, and there's any part of you that's concerned, you don't get a big
No.
dog
But even that, like, you're still gonna get issues with small dogs. I mean, we know that a lot of small dogs are ankle biters.
that
Well,
get away
kids'
with
ankles are
needles.
closer to the floor. So,
Yeah,
regardless of whether a small dog, big dog, you need to be prepared for everything. You need to be prepared for a struggle. Like, shit happens at the end of the day. And I think it does, yeah,
yeah,
it does. And I think if you're prepared to have 2 or 3 kids, you're going to be then prepared to have fights between them, scraps between them. Like, there's always going to be that sort of argument. So you need then if you're going to get a dog into it, it's an extra risk on top.
yeah. Oh, and yeah, I think you've got to be sensible. And I know a lot of people don't seem to have any common sense, but you've got to be sensible.
Yeah,
Like if you're having kids, you're having dogs, you're gonna have to manage things like, dogs going near high chairs
yeah.
and, putting a
Oh, they
stair gate
steal all
up.
my kids' food, and it's like, well,
Yes.
what training have you done in the first place? Have you actually bothered to do any impulse control, any leave it, drop it,
Yes.
etc.
Mhm.
first before the kid comes along? Because then actually, when there's the new distraction of a child and there's food falling from a high chair, you're gonna have to reteach it all.
100%. You've got, again, maybe this is me being slightly unrealistic because I don't have kids, but if you know you're having a kid, if you're planning on having one,
Yeah,
you start training way before the kid
yeah.
comes.
And
Like,
so I've got 2 clients at the minute who have got young children. They've just been doing some training. One's got another one on the way. And then the XL bully that I've been training, they've got a kid on the way. And she literally from essentially 6 weeks, she's got me in and we're gonna train up until the day the baby's born. And
I get it.
it's
Yeah.
things like people don't think about in we've done a lot of loose lead training with him. He's a big dog. He needs to learn how to walk next to a pram at some point.
Yep.
We've got loose lead down so far and he's foot perfect. We now need to work on loose lead with a pram.
Yeah, I've done it with Sherlock. Granted, there was not a baby in the pram. There was a baby Kevin in the pram. Beautifully next to a pram. We were just pushing along. It was great. That's ticked off. But just things like, can they settle on a bed? Can they not scavenge off your plate whilst you're
Yeah.
trying to eat? Do they bomb it out of the door? Because if you're trying to push a pram out the
Yeah.
door with a dog it's just going to be chaos. Um, it's just a little bit of preparation. Don't leave it till the week before.
Yeah.
Dogs jumping up. You don't want to walk in with a baby while your dog's jumping over you. You can
Yeah.
train all that stuff
And then
first.
there's also thinking of actually how, so say you've got the dog first and then you're having kids, the
Mm.
difference that's going to make on your dog. They're going to be unsettled. They're going to literally, their world's being turned upside down, possibly be going from being an only child
Yep.
to
Mm.
actually having to share their world with a baby, with a toddler, and not
It's,
knowing why they've gone from getting all the attention to
yeah,
probably getting
one.
not a lot.
Especially if they're not. My dogs are quite good in the sense that they are around children, so children are not novel to them.
Yeah.
If you're, I don't know, a certain type of person, or if you don't have friends with kids, or any of that kind of stuff, and your dog's not used to kids or babies
Yeah.
anyway, that's something completely
Yeah.
different that you're gonna have to get used
And the
to.
thing is, it's not as if like you can just go and train your dog to be around kids. It's not that simple. Like you can't take your dog to a park. That's
You,
not really acceptable. Like, and if not, you're the lurker on the edge of the park with a dog.
yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
gonna look a bit strange.
No, completely. And you've got to, yeah, and all dogs are different. So whereas my dogs are they're quite bomb-proof in that if there are kids shouting, if there's loud noises, like as a general, I mean, one's deaf, so that helps, but they're pretty good. If you've got a dog, so I've had them before that are really nervous,
Yeah.
everything, you've then got to factor that in for preparation time as well. So like I've got one, she was scared of they brought to be fair to them, they brought all the baby furniture in really, really early because anything that made a noise or moved and this dog was terrified.
Yeah.
She's coped really well. She's doing a fantastic job, but only because they started way earlier than was
Yeah.
probably needed for every other dog.
I just think, I mean, I know that there's a lot you've got to think about when it comes to having a baby, and you don't really want to have to think about the dog on top, but it's the reality of life, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to be prepared, like 100%. And it's so much easier to do it all before than have a baby and then go, oh, sugar, I should have sorted this out months ago.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, when you've got a baby, you're not going to want to train your dog.
No,
It's
exactly. You're gonna have a lot of other things to do, and as they always say, when the baby sleeps, you sleep. So you haven't really got the spare time
That was
to be
always something
training
I
the dog.
found. There was a post, I'll have to see if I can find it, and it was ways to sort of integrate babies and dogs, like using things that people forget about.
Yeah.
So, one of the things they said was rather than creating the dog,
Pit job.
create the child. So what they said is they were like, basically, your baby can't move.
Yeah.
So why don't you just corner off where the
Yeah.
baby is and the dog can have the rest of the
Yeah.
space? Then also what they were saying was your dog's going to end up having limited or no exercise
Yeah.
because you're not going to want to exercise it.
Yeah.
So in the months leading up, start giving your dog less and less.
Yeah. And that's why, like, so one of the ones, the clients we've had recently, they've got a Springer Spaniel, so that in itself needs like a good amount of exercise, and they give it some good walks. I think he has a couple of walks a day, but it's things like, right, you need to start doing, you might not have done it before, you need to start doing some gun dog stuff,
Yeah.
get that dog's brain working, do some enrichment, get some toys out,
Mhm.
um, start teaching it to settle because again, right, so you've got a working dog,
Yeah.
but his energy levels are still there, but you're doing this much exercise to this much energy, and we need to start making sure that the dog's energy is a little bit lower and that we can give it things that still works its brain while you can't necessarily take it out. Because again, what happens if you have a baby and you have a cesarean? You can't do anything for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So depending on who you are and your circumstances, if you're a single mum who's had a cesarean with a dog, you're a little bit fucked.
I'd
Like in
hate
the
to
nicest way.
be, I don't know whether you'd be the same, but personally, I'd hate to be one of those people that they can't do anything with the dog because they've had a baby. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? I don't want to have to be like, oh, well, we can't do that. I have to wait until so and so gets home. Like, he
Oh,
can walk the dog.
someone fell out with me
Right.
years ago because it was the same with their horse. So they were the most committed person on earth with their horse, got pregnant, and then it was like the horse never existed again. And I don't see how you can do, again, I don't have kids, I'm not really
Yeah,
maternal,
I get you. Yeah.
but if that dog, horse, cat, whatever has been in your life for that long, I don't get I don't get the flip.
I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be like, oh, I'll sit at home all day with a baby. We'll forget about the dogs.
Yeah.
Like, who needs them
Yeah, and
anymore?
then equally, your baby's gonna eventually, obviously, you got the sleep when the baby sleeps thing. As they get older, you're gonna have more time where the baby just sleeps and you're just doing nothing. So, right, okay, you might not be able to walk it because the baby's asleep in his like bassinet or whatever,
Yeah,
but right, go do some training in the garden. You've got your baby monitor. You can leave the baby where it is, like it's in a safe crib, you're fine. Go and do something with the dog.
yeah. I mean, put the baby, I mean, when it gets old enough, put it in a carrier.
Yeah, exactly. You can take it out on
You know,
walks. Exactly.
off you go. Yeah. Again, then maybe that's really unrealistic because I don't have kids. I'm just like,
I don't think it is though. Like coming from, I really need to sneeze. Um, coming from a horsey background, most of my horse friends who are older than me have all had kids now, and for most of them, it hasn't stopped them doing their horses. That baby was either in a pram or in a carrier, or like we set up on my old yard, we set up like a baby den for
yes.
it to go in while
Yeah.
the horses were being done so that it was in a safe area or like a spare stable or something. Like we
Yeah.
made sure it was clean and new
Yeah.
mats down and stuff like that. Like there is, let's say we're talking about normal people, they've not had any problems.
Yeah.
It's straightforward. There is no reason why you can't overlap things. There's no reason why that you should lose your passion, your motivation, or anything for your dogs, your horse, your cat. Like
Yeah.
again, talking normal, that you've not had a cesarean, you've not had a
Yeah.
complicated birth,
Mhm.
you're a mother who's supported by
Some,
either the father or the family, or if you've like, I don't want to say just father, but you know what I mean, like your
yeah. You've
partner.
got a support network.
Yes. There's no reason that you can't do it a certain way.
Yeah. I don't think having a baby should stop you doing everything else.
No,
It's not.
because I think you do saying, well, I've had this conversation with my friends recently, like having horses, having dogs is a hobby at the end of the day. It's not just a pet, it's a hobby, it's a full-time lifestyle. Um, and generally most of us have got it because it's something we're passionate about and it is our takeaway from things that although yeah, okay, animals are really stressful to have sometimes and they add their own stress to us. When I'm stressed about work, I go with my animals
Yeah.
and that chills me out.
Work my
So
dog. Yeah.
yeah, and you should still be able to, as a mum, have that outlet. So, like I said, whether it means that your baby goes with your mum, your dad, your partner, auntie, uncle, friend, whatever, or it comes to like if we're talking
Yeah.
horses, it comes to the yard with you and it sits in a pram while you're riding. Like you're always gonna have your sight on it. But it doesn't mean you can't do it. And actually, the earlier you expect, we say it all the time, like equestrians are built a different way. We're built on dirt.
Yeah.
Like we don't
Yeah.
get ill. Same with dog people. You don't get ill because you're
Yeah.
constantly dealing with dirt.
Yeah. All the time. All the time. Yeah. I used to know someone, she used to follow her baby around with wipes and disinfectant. And every time her baby touched something, she'd be like manically spraying and cleaning. And
I
I
couldn't
was
do it.
brought up around farmers. It's like, oh, you're a
Yeah,
bit
I'm
safe.
not being funny, especially if you're a farm girl or you're a horse girl, you're like, and you've got a kid, it's probably fallen in a water bucket once or twice,
Oh,
like,
100%. Yeah.
or it fallen over on the muck heap or something stupid. Like, we've had this conversation when we've had the like, don't get a dog if
Yeah.
the same with having a kid. You cannot expect to have a clean lifestyle with a
No,
kid or a dog.
you're going to
Or
give yourself a breakdown if you're trying to.
no, exactly.
Not
And like
that.
we've just said, having animals should be your outlet, your space to ho not hide, but a space to get away
Like
in.
your hobby, some people paint, some people,
Yeah,
go, I don't know, go to the gym. I don't do that. I work my
I
dogs.
do. I wish I, well, I don't have the time to, but I do.
Yeah, if I'm stressed, usually because of one dog,
Yeah,
I'll usually go and work the other one. And
yeah,
then that makes me feel a little bit better about
yeah.
myself. Yeah.
But, but
Funnily though, speaking of kids, Sherlock's going to school on
oh,
Wednesday.
lovely.
Going to go and speak to, well, I'm going to speak to 60 11 year
I
olds.
have been asked to do that, and I was like, yeah, right. And then,
You
thank
should do it if you can.
thankfully, nothing's come of it so far.
It's really good fun, like genuinely. And all the kids go around and Sherlock gives high fives out to everybody, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, but can you imagine with my two?
Though I'm not taking Kevin, like I do want to keep my job. I'm just taking the sensible one.
Bucky, no, not Bucky. Woody would only be able to do it one at a time. He wouldn't be able to handle it if he had like 30 kids around him.
Sherlock,
He's good as
right,
gold with kids,
yeah,
but again, if he had 30 of them around him, I don't think that would go very well.
he loves it. I'll have to see if I can film it because he almost realizes he's got an audience and that's his job.
Yeah.
He'll stand in the middle and he'll do like prancy feet and he'll howl and he like really shows off. It's brilliant. But yeah, 60 of them. So we're gonna do some tricks, do some
At least
demonstration.
with Sherlock, he can't hear them too. So he's
Yeah.
got he's got that perk for being deaf for once. Like something is coming handy there.
And they all shout at him and he's just like
Yeah, all right. Let's
nothing.
go.
Brilliant. Yeah. So that's what we're doing on Wednesday. So I have to take some pictures and put them up, put them in the group for everyone to nosy at.
Right, I think we are going to call that one a day for this episode. Thank you for listening. As always, like, share, follow, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Thank
Yep.
you.